Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Have you ever driven a company car, like on a regular basis? Question always is, if you're driving a company car and you get in trouble in the car, does it cause you any trouble in your employment? So Doug sent me a note that got me thinking about this from CTV News or the website cp24.com. John Woodward and Catherine DeClerc wrote it. More than 400 city vehicles were caught speeding in Toronto. And it's an issue because vehicles owned by the city are out there breaking the law. Now, they're not breaking the law on their own. There's somebody behind the wheel, presumably a city employee. But how is this happening at such a high rate? Because Toronto's automated cameras, which measure speeding, caught 456 city vehicles speeding in an 18-month period. Now, they also have red light cameras in Toronto. How are those city vehicles doing with those red light cameras? Not too good. 129 city vehicles ran red lights, according to the cameras run by the city. So the data was presented in a report to the Infrastructure and Environment Committee earlier this month. And it comes months after a CTV News Toronto investigation found that hundreds of tickets have been issued to operators of city vehicles within the first year of the automated speed enforcement program. But you know there's the problem because some of these tickets aren't issued to the driver as they are issued to the car. And if it's a city car being driven by a city employee and the ticket gets sent to the city, who pays for it? That's the question. According to documents obtained in Freedom of Information Act requests, 326 tickets were issued in that first year. And I accidentally inserted the word act in that sentence. Shouldn't be there because the Freedom of Information Act is a nickname for a statute in America. Here it says Freedom of Information Requests, which I guess is what they call them in Canada. So I apologize. At least 20 of these tickets involved garbage trucks, including one vehicle caught speeding outside of a North York school as students were leaving for the day. So there's a speeding garbage truck caught by a speed camera near a school around the time that kids get let out. The documents showed more than 24 specialty vehicles were also fined, including dump trucks, vehicles with heavy equipment, and vehicles carrying fluid in bulk. Fluid in bulk. At least 2 bylaw enforcement vehicles were also caught speeding. So the people who are out there enforcing the bylaws are speeding from place to place. The latest report by the city shows how many tickets were issued to employees between July 2020 and December of 2021. The largest offender is the Toronto Community Housing Corporation, the TCHC. Data shows that 90 tickets were issued to vehicles issued by this department, representing about 20% of all infractions. There were 75 vehicles in parks, forestry, and recreation, and 69 solid waste management vehicles that were caught speeding on the automated cameras. So all kinds of different departments just speeding willy-nilly. In terms of running red lights, vehicles with transportation services received the highest number of infractions with 29 tickets, followed closely by vehicles in solid waste management and Toronto Water. And there's always the question about behavior when the consequences are known to the person who's acting. So if you are doing something and you know there are rules, but you are told you will not be punished for breaking the rules, the rules kind of go out the window. If you find out you will be punished for breaking the rules, suddenly you take the rules more seriously. And the question then becomes, the advantage I get by breaking the rules, does it outweigh the penalty I get for breaking the rules? And it's actually decision making, something akin to economics. Okay, and we're not talking about the cost in dollars, but the cost in other things. And so the question here is, are they holding these drivers accountable, or can they just, with impunity, blow through a red light or speed, knowing I didn't get the ticket, the car did? So Deputy Mayor said, I think the city of Toronto should have a very high standard with Vision Zero because it's our policy and we need to lead by example. Vision Zero. Sounds like a new wave album, synth pop from the 80s. Vision Zero. Tickets issued by automated speed cameras are issued to the owner of the vehicle rather than the driver, so the city does end up making the payments. However, they claim that they then seek the money from the driver if they can figure out who the driver is, and apparently they've got problems doing that. So speaking with CTV News Toronto in July of 2021, the city said its drivers were issued $85,000 worth of tickets over the last 2 years. $85,000. Officials could say confidently that the city has recovered $14,000 of the $85,000. So $85,000 in tickets were paid by the city. They've been compensated for $14,000, but at the time, about $70,000 and change was outstanding. Outstanding. This is partly due to the challenges involved in figuring out who is driving the vehicle at the time of the infraction and difficulties in tracking tickets during the pandemic. And you'd think they would know who's driving a car on a particular day. Doesn't somebody have to sign it out or something? But worse, and this is something I thought was my imagination, and I've spoken to other people about this. There are cars that are labeled the state of Michigan. Michigan state employees, people who work for the state of Michigan, get cars to drive around, apparently. And you'll see them, and they're not like sports cars, they're not expensive luxury cars. They're usually just whatever the bottom of the line sedan is. And it'll have a label on the door that says State of Michigan. And it'll have an official license plate on it. And you'll see these cars just being driven around by what look like regular people all over the place. Just weekends, Sundays, doesn't matter. And I'm always looking at them going, are they really on official business? Or do they let them take the cars home? Or maybe they just get to keep the cars? I don't know. It just seems odd. It just seems odd. But here they say they're trying to figure out who was in the vehicle so they can say, by the way, you got to pay for this ticket. The roughly 450 tickets issued in the last year and a half is a big drop from previous years, which counselors say proves the automatic speeding cameras are working because it's somehow encouraging people to slow down. As a result, the city says it will be introducing new vehicle monitoring technology that will provide them with instant data about who is driving and how fast they're going. Who is your daddy and what does he do? Well, it seems to me that, again, it shouldn't be that hard to figure out who's driving a vehicle if you simply kept track of them. I don't know, have people sign them in and sign them out. Or maybe assign them and say, okay, when you're on the job, you're driving this car. And how many people could be driving this car this shift? Just one. Okay, that's you. I don't know why this is that complicated, although I suspect they're going to say, well, we've got hundreds and hundreds of vehicles. If you look at the vehicles and the dump trucks and the tow trucks and the forestry trucks and the trucks that haul liquid waste or whatever it was, fluid in bulk. And so maybe they've got so many cars, and maybe they do actually have cars that are driven by more than one person, but still, simply having something, look at how many books are in a library. And the librarian can keep track of who's got which books out. And I understand that they might make mistakes, but then again, we're talking about books versus cars, okay? So it seems like you should be able to keep track of the cars. But as of right now, the vast majority of the tickets were paid for by the city, and they've not been reimbursed for it. And I suspect that's because a lot of people who are driving these cars go, oh, I don't get the ticket, the car does. So they'll have to fix that one way or another. But it's a fascinating story. John Woodward and Catherine DeClercq wrote it for CTV News. It was published on cp24.com. Doug sent it to me. More than 400 city vehicles are caught speeding in Toronto. Tickets were paid by the city, but not reimbursed for the most part by the drivers. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Be like a postage stamp. Stick to one thing until you get there.